No matter where you've travelled to or what you've done, nothing can prepare you for Sri Lanka. It is tropical, it is arid, it is beautiful, it is crowded, it is empty, it is alive with culture. Due to its prominent position on the ancient sea routes between Europe, Africa and Asia, the teardrop island, once known as Ceylon, has been a crosswaves of culture, trade, religion and empires for thousands of years.
In this little island, the population are 19 million, 74% Sinhalese and 18% Tamil, 7% Muslim and 1% is Burgher. Those are the descendants from the Dutch period.
I still say you can live in this country without a rupee. If you know the people, if you go inside the country and ask a glass of water, a person maybe who is having few things at home, he try to give you at least a coconut or a cup of tea he offer. That's not for money.
The Portuguese, the Dutch, the British, and countless princes and kings who came before the colonists. The dust of 100 kingdoms is at your feet in Sri Lanka. The empires may have crumbled, but fortunately, some of their monuments remain. Sri Lanka has been a cradle for both Hindu and Buddhist religions. This 1,500-year-old temple barely gets a road sign or a mention in the travel guides. 1,400 years before the time of Christ, Sri Lanka was already trading spices with Egypt. But somehow, in a land so ancient, there are still hundreds of miles of empty coastline, seemingly untouched, and rainforests as pristine as they were centuries ago. For the adventurous surfer, coming to Sri Lanka is not like any other surf trip you might go on. There's just so much more to it than waves.
It's like a safari cross, really awesome surf trip. It's kind of like stepping back in time in some respects.
It's like a nomad adventure rather than that surf trip where you just go to the Mentawais and you just go on to surf. Here it's more of a experience.
In an age of pre-packaged holidays, Wi-Fi hotspots, boat trips, bus trips and shiny hotels, there are few places left on this planet where you can truly feel like you have discovered a world you thought no longer existed. But that's exactly what you can find in Sri Lanka. Old, new, east, west, nature, people and gods. Here it all binds together to form one colour, the colour that is Sri Lanka. We're here for the Sri Lankan Airlines Pro, a 6-star affair on the Association of Surfing Professionals World Tour. The venue is Aragon Bay, one of the most idyllic venues on the calendar. To get there, we'll have to cross the entire country. Leaving the capital of Colombo and heading east, through the endless string of small sleepy villages as the road climbs into the mountains. The rhythm of these villages revolves around the local market, or the pola, the heart and soul of Sri Lanka. It is here that one can discover the daily culture of Sri Lanka, where people trade goods, buy their food, or spend the day gossiping. Central Sri Lanka is dominated by a mountain range. The hot tropical air below pushes up into the hills and gives the high country a permanent mist and keeps the landscape lush and green. With an average temperature of 16 degrees Celsius, it's the perfect environment for Sri Lanka's greatest commodity, tea. Introduced to the island in the late 19th century by the British, tea has remained vitally important to the Sri Lankan economy. It still provides the majority of jobs for people living outside the cities. These beautiful undulating tea fields produce some of the finest teas in the world through a process unchanged since Victorian times. Climbing down from the hill country, the temperature rises, the clouds disappear, and a shimmer of heat surrounds you. You know you're in the tropics again. Having travelled 315 kilometres east of Colombo, we passed through the Muslim village of Potterville, the last stop before arriving in Aragon Bay, a pristine strip of coast situated in the dry zone of Sri Lanka's southeast. The small population of locals live off the sea. For years, Aragon Bay has attracted nomadic surfers due to its long right-hand point break. For the first time in its history, Sri Lanka played host to an international world tour event, the Sri Lankan Airlines Pro. Over 64 international surfers made the trek. There is certainly a novelty factor to this wave, and not just because of its incredible length. This wave really has its own personality. Breaking over a rocky bottom covered with sand, Aragon Bay breaks just a few metres away from the beach. Some sections of the wave break so close that you can literally jump off the sand and be up and riding within a few strokes.
It's a wave, if your timing is right on the wave, you'll surf it well.
I'd probably most compare it to maybe a little bit sectionier than Burley, because it has got that little power section.
I think a really high performance wave, and you know, it's a really contestable wave.
Surfing is virtually unknown as a sport in cricket-loving Sri Lanka, but with a wave like this in their backyard, a bunch of youngsters from Aragon Bay are on the verge of swapping their traditional profession of fishing to take up surfing. They've taken the initiative of forming the Aragon Bay Surf Club.
So hi, I'm Krish from Aragon Bay Surf Club. We have a good location. It's in East Coast. This is our home break. We have a very good surfers, and I reckon in Sri Lanka we are the best surf club in Sri Lanka. So we are more proud of with this contest to competing with the Australian surfers, and we get very experience with surf. It doesn't matter if we select or not. We surf with the pro surfers. This is like a still dream for our boys. ASP, WQS.
I think it's going to have a huge impact on all of the local surfers, because they're getting to see surfers that they've probably seen in old magazines sort of floating around. To have surfers like, you know, Julian Wilson and guys who are on the WCT, Drew Courtney, Blake Thornton, all come to their doorstep, it's probably just going to open up a whole new world of sort of what they can try in the surf. I mean, you'll probably come back next year and the kids will be surfing way better.
Now they've kind of seen a contest go on and the level where surfing's at, hopefully they catch on and start tearing this wave to pieces.
It's really nice to see all the locals here competing in this event. Really nice. I think they're all part of a history, and first time they're doing an international event here. Hopefully in a couple of years we can have professional Sri Lankan surfers.
I feel, for me, surfing is an amazing sport. I'm not a pro surfer, I don't have much experience with the surfing, but I feel something with surfing.
With the water melting the wax off your board and the air temperature close to 50 degrees Celsius, the chilly mist of the mountains behind us are a distant memory. Aragon Bay is hot, brutally hot. This is the dry zone of Sri Lanka's southeast. Coming up after the break, we'll explore more of this beautiful country. Since we've come halfway around the world, Richard Christie and Billy Stearman from New Zealand decided to take a look around. The adventurous spirit is well catered for in Sri Lanka. Sooner or later, a tuk-tuk will come by and you're on your way. It's amazing that for such a small island with such a large population, so much of the country seems quite empty. Wherever there are no people, the countryside opens up and the animals take over. The wildlife in this part of Sri Lanka is stunning. It's like Africa meets an Indian jungle safari. Elephants have permeated every facet of Sri Lankan culture, history, religion and mythology. For over 2,000 years, Sri Lankans have lived with these graceful giants. This beautiful temple, just sitting in the middle of a village along the roadside, is over 1,000 years old. It's absolutely amazing. It would have been built using the most basic of tools: chisels, clay, mud, paints from the earth, not from a factory. A monumental task. It would have been spectacular in its day, and still is. And kids, just like these ones, would have been playing around its base for that entire millennium. Not a lot has changed in this village since it was first built. The temple is still a centre of hope, emotion, happiness and sadness. It is exactly what it was designed to be 1,000 years ago. Every temple has its own mythology. This one, built near the sea, is said to mark the place where two gods arrived to Sri Lanka in stone boats. These two smooth hull-shaped rocks on the beach nearby are said to be those boats which carried the gods to shore. Fortunately for Richie and Billy, the gods landed next to a great right-hand point break. If this was Australia or California, there would be a car park next to the beach with shops and apartments on the headland. But it's not, it's Sri Lanka, and most days the closest surfer is hundreds of miles away. This is actually a known break in the area, but there are dozens more like it, just peeling away, empty and waiting for the next tuk-tuk with boards on the roof to come along. Coming up next, we get into the main rounds of the Sri Lankan Airlines Pro at Aragon Bay. We're at the business end of one of the most important World Tour events of the year for those surfers who need to establish themselves. Doing well here could launch their careers onto the world stage.
I think the talent level out here is pretty high and the waves are picking up, so I think it's going to be a good finish to the final day.
The final day was an event organiser's delight. The swell picked up and the wind swung offshore. The surfers simply revelled in the perfection. Indonesian surfer Dedi Siriana looked the goods throughout the event and posted his best ever result, but was eventually knocked out by the unstoppable Jake Sharp from Australia. Wildcard Julian Wilson, who was already famous in his own right, made his return from a broken leg and looked like the man to beat from his first heat.
And I was kind of just searching for one of those kind of medium inside ones, and yeah, I got lucky with kind of double up, like really good one, had good pace to it and ran all the way through.
Just dropped down real late and just made it back up into it and it just doubled up perfectly.
This amazing tube ride from Reece Bombachi secured him a spot in the quarterfinals. Junior surfer Davey Cathles turned up from Narrabeen, Sydney for his first World Tour event and impressed everyone with big, smooth turns. Eventually falling to Warhorse Drew Courtney in the quarterfinals.
I've been doing it for 10 years now and I had a lot of experience, so just waited and obviously got the score on that last wave.
Austin Ware from San Diego looked promising in quarterfinal number 2 as the waves kept getting better and better. The heat was eventually won by Australian Jake Sharp, who posted multiple high-scoring rides.
Feels so good to get this year started. I was hoping to have a full year on the QS, but obviously that got postponed a little bit with the injury, but kind of found my feet again. I'm feeling pretty confident again, and yeah, I'm just happy to be surfing and you know, enjoying waves like this.
Reece Bombachi again scores another long tube ride, but it wasn't enough to overpower Julian's clean flowing style and multiple high scoring waves. The waves really turned on for semi-final number 1. Californian prodigy Nat Young beat Jake Sharp, with both riders surfing really good and getting high scores.
I've been surfing out here every day, like 3 times a day, and I was just in kind of a good rhythm with the set. I'm stoked I came, and this is the best I've done so far this year, the farthest I've made it.
Jake Sharp. This is a great exchange. Leaders wrapped it up, and now the cameras will pick up on line surfing action in this exchange from your. He's going to come around the section. It's about to become an exchange with the man in blue blocking the tube on the outside. So a big wall for Drew. Well, there is a double barrel and he's.
Julian's march towards the final seemed unstoppable, ending Drew Courtney's run with fast critical turns and linking them together through seemingly impossible sections. With the wind still perfect offshore and the waves now reaching up to 6 feet, the crowd on the beach just kept growing. The Julian Wilson versus Nat Young final saw some incredible surfing. Local school attendance was at an all-time low. It's interesting to see the locals' reactions to the surfers. In a place where nothing much changes and the focus is mostly on the next meal or the next fishing trip. Nat only got a couple of good rides and could not catch up to Julian's high-scoring, flawless, top-to-bottom style.
Well, with his very good-looking second wave now underway, Julian Wilson races down Aragon Bay, and he does a check turn to hit the lip like that, and he's looking very confident with that bottom turn, top turn combo, and the man in blue goes off to the wall, so to speak.
Julian's win capped off a remarkable event in a remarkable place.
Just to get the year started this way, it feels insane, and I couldn't really ask for much more. Just try and keep some momentum going into the second half of the year.
It's been an amazing trip, and all the people have been so nice and letting us take their wave for the week, and the food's great, and the little town school, and we saw elephants, and it's been a really fun trip.
I'm over the moon. So stoked.
The event was outstanding overall, and all that were in attendance agreed another magnificent venue had been added to the ASP surfing tour.